brand had done a great job. I mean, guys like Shake Milton were here, Tobias Harris, who's having probably the best year of his career so far. Now we've got Joel and Ben in their prime. We've got shooters all around with Danny and Seth Curry, who we added. And, we feel very good. I think that starting group that Doc goes along with, which is it's interesting how Doc does it, but it's been very successful. I love how he's doing it. Only the Lakers and maybe one other team have been better, but we're all in this elite range of beating teams by about 20 when they're on the floor.
What is going on with Joel Embiid? He seems to have taken his game to another level. Explain to us what we're seeing and why.
Well, I think Joel gets the most credit. I think he really took a step back after last year and has put a ton of work in. And then I think you add on top of that, Doc Rivers, a championship coach who is making sure he's getting the ball in great spots. Plus adding a Danny Green who's had multiple titles, knows how to win and shoot, adding shooters like Seth Curry. I think it's all coming together. And I think the relationship that Ben and Joel have developed, where they both are actively trying to look for each other and make each other successful, has been a big factor as well.
Now, without mentioning any names, Daryl Morey, I mean, you guys were in some trade rumors and things of that nature. Not going to ask any names here, but I will ask this question. At any time this season, did you contemplate making a move to improve this team? Because you are a wheeler and dealer. Did you think about that at all, Daryl Morey?
Well, yeah, I think when a player of that caliber comes available, I think all the top teams have to at least check out and see what it is. But we feel very good about where we're at. And I think Houston was very excited to short Brooklyn's future over us or Miami or Boston.
What would you qualify as success for this specific Philadelphia 76ers team?
Well, I think we're pretty championship or bust. I have to say, Doc Rivers obviously has won a title. I haven't gotten there yet. Joel and Ben haven't gotten there yet. I think we have a very good chance.
Daryl Morey, executive for the Philadelphia, fan and a fan of Brick, by the way, right here with me. Thank you. Drop 4 days a week at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. To get ESPN Plus, log on to ESPNplus.com. We bring back in Mike Wilbon. You heard Daryl Morey right there. Championship or bust for the Philadelphia 76ers. Any issues with that, Wilbon?
I'm going to disagree with my fellow Northwestern Wildcat and dear friend Daryl Morey. No, not this year, Stephen A. That suggests when you say championship or bust anybody that the window is barely open and you got to squeeze through. No, and because Daryl Morey is the wheeler and dealer you mentioned and can improve a team before a trade deadline or in the offseason, no, I think the 76ers are going to have a couple of times at bat here at the very least. No, I wouldn't say championship or bust. I'll still ride with them right now in the Eastern Conference.
What?
I picked them before.
What?
I picked them before the James Harden trade. I'm going to stay with the Sixers.
What?
Yes.
What?
And listen, Ben Simmons isn't even playing great yet. He's got room to grow this season, Stephen A.
What has happened to you? Where's the Mike Wilbon I know and love? Kevin Durant is in the Eastern Conference, averaging 30. The last person, James Harden's averaged 30 the last 3 years. He's in the East on the same team. And Kyrie Irving, arguably the third wheel, and you're saying the 76ers out of the East?
Stephen A., I don't care about points scored. I care about games won. All right? And so I'm willing to go with Philly then. They've got the shooters now to surround Embiid. I mean, they got Shake Milton coming off the bench. I like what the 76ers are doing. And Daryl Morey, as you just said to him, not afraid to make a move before the trade deadline if he feels it's necessary.
Here's what I know, Mike Wilbon. I got to do my list next. Oh, no, you did it.
Hello and welcome to Access Sportsnet Lakers, driven by your Southern California Honda dealers. Chris McGee, James Worthy, Derek Fisher, Allie Clifton will join us shortly. We've got Mike Trudell and Mike Bresnan working the post-game locker room on the Zooms. Guys, Lakers lose in someone else's arena, a true road game for the first time since February 29th, 2020. The 10-0 start comes to an end in Philly. Let's go. I had a whole thing planned, but those last 2 minutes kind of changed everything. So let's take a look, James, at that final play. Philly and Tobias Harris. He gets the bucket and Philly wins.
Well, a lot of people think Embiid is the guy, and he is. You know, he's the star of that team. But you cannot sleep on Tobias Harris. This guy is he's a one-on-one specialist. You know, he knows how to get his shot off. And I knew that when he got it, you know, it was going to be, you know, Tobias Harris. They didn't get it to Embiid. This is what he does for a living. And quite frankly, he carried them in the second half. You know, third quarter, fourth quarter, it was Harris who was getting some good shots. So hats off to Philadelphia. This is probably their biggest game of the year, and they played up to it. Lakers did a great job coming back. Ugly game. You know, Montrezl Harris, no points. Pope, only 3. AD not hitting free throws. This is a strange game in a lot of categories for the Lakers, but they did make a big run. Unfortunately, Harris was the closer.
Yeah, Lakers only 64% from the free throw line, only 33% from 3. Got to give Philly credit. 13-0 run by the Lakers gets them the lead. They call that timeout. They get that switch for Tobias Harris on Alex Caruso. You saw how that draw that up. They went that pick and roll, got the switch, then it was Tobias on the mismatch.
Yeah, and Alex Caruso, really good defender.
Yep.
You know, not a bad defensive possession, but Doc Rivers, for sure, coming out of that timeout, knew that the Lakers would switch, got the ball to what he felt like was his best individual perimeter player, and you got to give a guy credit. Tip your hat to him, knocks down a big shot to secure the win.
Yeah, listen, Embiid and Simmons, they combined for 45 points. Joel Embiid, we talked about it, big game in the pregame show. One thing he is great at for sure, he's having an MVP-type season. He can get to the free throw line, and he did it tonight, and he converted 11 of 13. He finished with 28, 6, and 2. Ben Simmons, a triple-double. And as you said, there's their third guy, Tobias Harris, with the game winner in 24.
Yeah, Embiid, a much healthier Embiid, a much more focused this year, it seems like, under the tutelage of Doc Rivers and the coaching staff. And, you know, Tobias, a great player. And, you know, you talk about Simmons, as you see the multiple moves by Embiid, but Simmons might not score a lot, but his impact on the game is huge. He's big, he's strong, offensive rebounds, you know, putbacks and things of that nature. So that three-headed monster, along with a collective effort for the rest of the 76ers, they did what they needed to do at home. Get the win.
You know what I'm already looking forward to, Geets?
What's
in
that?
Big game is when the Sixers definitely. But when the Sixers come to L.A., you know, assuming that, you know, obviously things continue with the season, and when they come back to L.A. and the Lakers are more rested and, you know, just more of a sound game, I think it's a really good matchup. These two teams. Both teams really physical. The game got a little disjointed at times, a lot of whistles, a lot of stoppages in play. And those are tough games to keep you focused and keep the continuity in the way the Lakers normally like to play. But you have to give the Sixers credit. Yeah,
they split their 2 meetings last year. Lakers lost in Philly. They're 10-1 now at home, Philadelphia. And, James, I think you have to absolutely say that they are one of the top contenders in the Eastern Conference, along with probably Brooklyn, as everyone thinks, once they get it going, and Milwaukee.
Yeah, after this big game against the Lakers, it was a measure game. You know, it's early in the season. You can't put too much focus on it. But they definitely have arrived with the players that they have and the way they play and the way they're coached. They rebound, they defend, they can score from many different places. No excuses for the Lakers. Being on the road can be, you know, tough. It can take a little bit out of you. I think this is what, their fourth game on the road, Geeta?
On this trip.
On this trip, yeah. So,
yeah,
you know, it's no excuse, but it does take a little bit out of you. You get into that third or fourth game on the road. I'm not making any excuses for them, but Philly was ready, and they did a great job in Philadelphia.
D-Fish, I do want to talk about Ben Simmons, 17, 11, and 10, the triple-double. I know we talked about this in the pregame show. You weren't here, Fish. You know, everyone is just dying for him to hit threes and shoot threes and be that aggressive guy. But he just plays his style, and he's so effective, and he's also really good on the defensive end. Don't think he even gets enough credit there, but he was great tonight, 17, 11, and 10.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's continuing to understand himself, his game, what he's really good at, using his size to do things defensively that really create problems for people. He's probably first-team all-defense again this year. He should be, you know, an MVP candidate if the Sixers continue to play this way. He does everything at all 3 levels of the game, getting his teammates involved, finishing at the rim, creating havoc on the defensive end. I mean, because he's 6'10", I think we want him to be different somehow. But he's a guard, and he doesn't just impact the game through trying to score points from the outside. He has a great all-around game, and I credit the Sixers for sticking with him when people question whether they should.
Back to the Lakers, guys. The theme that I wrote down here going into those last 2 minutes before the 13-0 run was that the Lakers just, bottom line, didn't play well enough to win the game on the road against a really good team, especially in the middle of a road trip. When you shoot that way from three, remember, James, there was a point where they missed 12, 13 threes in a row. Yes, they got hot at the end to get themselves back in. From the free throw line, as you mentioned, only 64%. Fast break points, +8 for Philadelphia. So all the categories you're used to seeing the Lakers kind of dominate, it went to Philadelphia. It's really tough. I just felt like the Lakers were going uphill the whole game. Every time they get it close, down by 2, Gasol in and out on a 3, Sixers go out for a 7-0 run. Every time the Lakers chipped away, Sixers got it back up to 10 or 11.
Yeah, it wasn't, for lack of effort. The Lakers were really, trying. They were trying to get back in, but when you're not getting your usual game from Montrezl Harrell, that energy, when you're not getting, Pope's been shooting the hell out of the ball from 3, when you're not getting all your fire that you need, and Philly is just continually coming back at home. It's a tough